Hi there. So this is kind of like a bit of an update on how I'm finding the Amflow. I said I was going to try and do kind of updated reviews of it. I'm really not into editing content, so literally recording this off my phone and then I'm just going to upload it how it comes out. So I apologise if it rambles on a bit or kind of gets off topic. In short, absolutely loving it. When I first went out on the few rides I'd had when I did the last review, I was finding I didn't feel totally comfortable on the bike. I felt more on the bike than in the bike, which was one of the comments I made. I've messed about with the suspension settings a bit more and feel a bit more comfortable, got a bit more sag on the rear, change the tyres over. So I've now got Maxxis Minions front and rear, got the both XO Plus. They're just what I had on my high tower, so I swapped them over. But it's a max grip front and definitely made a difference having like the softer carcass and dampening that the max grip just has a more dampened feel to it. Still a max terror on the bike, but that extra tread of the Minion over the Dissector that came on it originally has made a difference. One of the comments I made was about the Maguras not having a load of initial bite. They still not got as much initial bite as some other bikes I've had, some other brakes I've had, and but what I do love is the lever feel. And I've said this before, but you hit the bite point and it's solid. It's just so nice, so consistent. It's not wandering or moving during rides, which I've found with other brands like Shimano, even with SRAM Code RSCs, which is what I've got on my high tower. I found you get like a bit of a wandering bite point. These are really consistent and I love that. They've definitely bedded in a lot better. So if you're new to the bike, give the pads a bit of chance because they do seem to just get a bit better with time. Little pet hate. Apparently it's 11:15 at night. It isn't. It is in fact 3:15 in the afternoon. This is now had 2 updates on it. So the original update, which came last December, and then the one that's just come out recently. Yet Amflow/DJI have not managed to figure out a way for the bike to remember what time it is unless you pair it to your phone. So if I was to pair this to the app now, it'd straight away know what time it is and it'd update that. But I mean, it's just a really basic thing, and it's only a really pet niggle I've got. But you know, I've got a bike computer that's 5-6 years old and it remembers what time it is. I don't need to pair it to my phone every single time I switch it on to know what time it is. Anyway, that's my pet niggle out of the way. Other than that, fantastic. I'd definitely like to play around with things on it. So somebody from MBR has recently reviewed it or done like a range test, and they'd put a 650B wheel on the back, but they'd not moved the flip chip round. So it lowered the bottom bracket, slackened the head angle a bit more. So I think that'd be really interesting to do. The forks and the suspension are bedding in nicely. And yeah, loving it. Range wise, I've been out today, done about 20 miles and about 2,500 foot of elevation. Still got 47% left. And I did probably the last 7 miles pretty much in trail and boost. But did the first half of the ride, or the vast majority of the ride, just using the auto setting. The motor's been great, super smooth. The power's really controllable. Auto's great. I find auto mode does the majority of what you need, unless you're on a really, really steep climb, and then trail is enough. Turbo's literally just for fun. You don't need that much power, but it is a hell of a lot of fun having it there. In terms of the bike itself, I think it's a wicked trail bike. Is it a full-on enduro sled? No, of course it isn't. It's a 150, 160 travel bike. It is more designed as a trail bike, and you know, people might be doing a hell of a lot more than I am. There's a guy I think on YouTube called Ian Richards, I believe, and he's done loads of reviews, loads of content on his Amflow. Definitely go and check him out because he's absolutely using and abusing his Amflow way more than I am, and he's done a lot more to it already. So it's definitely worth checking him out and seeing what he's doing with his bike, because it's a lot more than what I'm doing, and I've been watching all his videos. So definitely check that guy out. So one of my biggest comparisons is to my other bike, which is my Santa Cruz Hightower. Now, the reach, the head angle, a lot of the figures are very similar, but the Hightower just feels a bit more like there's a bit more in-bike feel. I think some of that is due to the slightly steeper seat tube angle. It's got a shorter seat tube. It just feels, it still feels a bit more dialed as a trail bike for me. But anyway, the reason I was using that as a comparison was just visually to see, you know, you can see that kind of bottom bracket height is a bit higher, that slightly slacker seat tube angle. But I have to say, I just love it. Been out on a ride today and it's been fantastic. If you were looking at buying something like a Levo, I'd say leave it alone, go for the Amflow instead. That was one of the bikes I was looking at. If you want something more enduro based, I do think if you look past the motor, you look past that kind of electronic side of it, I do think there's potentially better bikes out there if you are proper into enduro, slamming it everywhere. For me personally, I won't ever outride this bike. I'm not good enough a rider. I don't ride things that are techie or extreme enough. I'm not massively into my jumps. So for me, as a trail bike, it is just fantastic. It is perfect. Like I said, my only real gripe has been the silly clock thing going wrong, not like telling me the right time. The tyres, which I think pretty much everybody has mentioned, they spec'd the wrong tyres when they sent it to us, sent it out new. Don't know why they did it, but they did. But yeah, I think my biggest kind of like happy moment was when the brakes started to bite better and have a better feel to them, because I was genuinely thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna have to like upgrade the brakes. And to be honest, for what I'm doing on it, they're perfectly fine. Definitely try some different pads. I think it's Galfa ones people have been recommending once these wear out. But like I said, that's great. The motor has been quiet, it's been smooth. You know, I know the GX drivetrain's pretty basic, but it does what it needs to do. And it's same as a lot of components on it. They're not flash or fancy, but I just can't think of another bike out there for £6,000 at the minute which can rival this. I just can't. There might be better bikes if you spend 10 grand, but for 6 grand, I genuinely think it's the best trail slash going towards enduro, but not quite there bike there is. And, you know, if you want to, there's potential upgrades to change the 36 fork to have a 170mm travel, get the different dampener in it, maybe put a coil on the bike, all these little bits and bobs you could do to it after a while. But as a base to build on, £6,000 is an absolute bargain for it. You know, a 22 kilo e-bike with an 800 watt hour battery, 800 peak watts of power and the 105 newton meters of torque. I mean, it's great. The display is fantastic. The fact you can customize it as well. I generally run it like this, where it's just showing me what gear, battery percentage, but just great, fantastic. Really, really happy with it. Not had any issues with the stem either. Some people have talked about the stem spinning. Maybe I'm just not riding it hard enough, but yeah. I don't know what else to say really. Dead chuffed with it. Fingers crossed it'll keep on going fault free. I think that's going to be the biggest test going forward for DJI is, you know, reliability. Not just reliability, but actually if there's a motor fault, being able to replace it quickly. I know that's where Bosch has excelled, because they just have such a massive dealer network that, generally speaking, your local bike shop would always be able to help you out with it. But so far, completely fault-free. Not even had a slight glitch on it. It's, yeah, super impressed. Really loving it. Just can't fault it. Well done, Amflow. I personally think it's probably just about one of the best EMTB trail bikes you can buy. Like I said, enduro, you want to go ramming down absolute gnarly enduro trails. Will it put up with it? Will it deal with it? Probably yes. Is there better bikes to do that? Potentially yes. But yeah, absolutely loving it, and hope this has been of some help.